that went on today with good old TSA and flight delays. I don't know if you guys on the panel have seen any of that online.
Austin Airport was, I think, 2 hours wait time today, and it's normally like 20 minutes. So yeah,
Wow.
it's kind of nuts out there.
I am nervous. I'm actually going to New Orleans next week, and I am anticipating things to be miserable.
Yeah, I'm flying out to London on Thursday for a work trip, and I don't know how that's going to go. Coming
Love to
back will
hear
probably be
it.
the bigger problem.
Yeah, I'm guessing coming back's a problem for everyone. So, on that note, it's actually given an opportunity to Mr. Eric Wells, CISO of Kraft Kennedy, to step up to the let's see, free throw line, if you will, and talk about some settings with us while we do the Misconfiguration Madness second round. Eric, do you know anything about this before going on stage with us today?
Absolutely not. You called me up and said, "Hey, can you come help me out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I can get on. I have lots of opinions."
Love it. Well, it's a fun show, and we can kick off here with the title slide as it pops up and open up the first slide. We'll do a quick reminder for those who missed last week. This is obviously a bracket tournament where settings are either determined to be important from a security perspective and a CMMC perspective, where they will win the matchup. The AI named Hal will make that decision. But let's go back a slide. I'll have Lawrence here introduce a little bit about how Hal actually comes up with that winner here to keep it agnostic and educational.
Absolutely. You want to get into that now?
Yeah, if you don't mind giving an intro of Hal, our special score decider.
That's right. So Hal is the hardening and logging computer. We have to have a little bit of objectivity, surely amongst this group. So Hal actually comes up with 2 scores for each misconfiguration. Now, the first half looks at really the impact and likelihood. So the impact of a single misconfiguration being present as the only security control, right? The only security control in an environment. How frequently is that type of a misconfiguration observed in a typical hybrid mixed on-prem and an Azure environment? And it all must align with a CIS framework. So the likelihood of the impact, the severity of that misconfiguration in a typical small business is what we're looking for in the first half. Now, where it gets really interesting is in the second half, and that's when we bring the compliance piece into this. And you know, it can't be 2026 if we don't have a little Riz. And Riz in this case is a recency indicator score. And so what we're doing is we're looking across social media, we're looking across Reddit, we're looking across X, we're looking across multiple ISACs, as well as Microsoft Dart and the broader cybersecurity news to see if there's any current news, any current attacks, any vulnerabilities that come up that are centered around one of these misconfigurations. So Hal gets a little bit of Riz in the second half, but then we look at the impact of that against a CMMC score. Now, for those that aren't familiar with CMMC is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and it has a pretty complicated scoring model that is anchored in SPRS, or SPRS, the Service Provider Risk Scoring System that the DoD uses. So CMMC has either a 1-point, a 3-point, or a 5-point deduction for a not met in an assessment. Well, each of these misconfigurations, they might align to one CMMC practice, but they also might align to many others. So in this case, we have the potential of a huge upset in that second half, where if a single misconfiguration impacts a bunch of different CMMC practices, right? That's going to drive up its score here, and equally if it has high Riz, if there's a vulnerability that has happened here in the last week, right? Just in the last week from last week, if there's Riz, there's a recency of that, it's going to also drive up that score. So the second half, look for exciting upsets in all of these teams.
I know Dustin was getting a kick out of the Riz, and Eric, you catch all that? You ready to get rizzed up for this episode?
I'm ready to get rizzed up.
All right.
I'm going to totally throw some brackets over this next week by creating a bunch of Reddit burners and talking about vulnerability.
100%.
We gave away too much.
right.
So this is
That's
it.
too
Almost it feels
funny.
like a bit of a wild card, kind of like we had with Hal last week on those couple of
Right.
bracket
At the
busters.
end, right.
Yeah.
Like there was like, what was it? It was the SMB V1 I posted to LinkedIn about, because I got a little bit of like flame mail on that. I'm like, no, we have to like explain this. And so yeah, like SMB V1 was one like that made it to the playoffs last year.
Last year, yep.
And it might have some staying power this year. I don't know. So Dustin, I'm going to look for all of those those burner accounts you're going to light up out there. And
But to be fair, we're still seeing SMBV1. We're still seeing it. I mean, it's
right.
I mean, you would think, right?
I mean, Microsoft only wrote 3 blog articles that I can recall where they all but begged, like, please stop using this. It's almost like NTLM. It's the protocol that just won't die.
It's funny because I
Eric,
think we're going to see.
I was going to say real quick, Eric, I don't know if you saw it too. Matt Lee did a live lookup because at first it was just like, oh, that's not a big deal. And, they'd have to get past your edge defenses first. There was, I wonder how many people are opening the ports. And so last week alone, Shodan, Matt Lee did a live lookup, 28,000 SMB ports open to the internet.
There you go, right there.
It's wild.
It's wild.
All right, so Hal has some legitimacy to it, and fortunately, talking about SMBV1, that is going to be one of the matchups today.
Oh,
and
wow.
speaking of matchups, let's kick into game one here. So for game one, we're going to have data loss protection shortage against admin accounts multitask. So, this is either where data is going to flow free with oversight asleep, or admins everywhere, boundaries nowhere. I feel like I want to kick off with Dustin here from the insurance point of view. I feel like both of these have to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm laughing on that. Data wants to be free. I'm actually going to go with the admin accounts multitask. I have
the 16 seed upset to kick off the first game.
I have a number of claims. I'm not going to hijack the whole webinar for that, but man, I got some stories on number 16, and those are always the biggest ones. You don't ever have when it's their admin accounts, their daily driver. Those are never small claims. So I'm going all in on 16 on this one. Don't get me wrong, DLP is pretty good, but one of the things we look at in insurance is you got to dumb it down some, right? So DLP, oh great, it's in place. Check. I turned on Azure Information Protection. It's never configured right. It's never but that I gave myself domain admin just because I needed to deal with this this one thing just for today. It's a simple, stupid mistake not to make. So I'm going hard on 16 on this one.
And let's put up that first half security score to see which one's more valuable from a security perspective. And then Eric, you want to kick us off? Ooh, wow,
Ooh.
Dustin.
Wow, that's really close.
16 seed
Wow.
coming up big in the first half. Eric, I want to drop it to Eric. Is the 1 seed going to take back the victory in the second half where compliance is weighted?
I don't know. I mean, does anyone do DLP correctly? I mean, in the last 15 years, I think I've only seen maybe one, DLP instance done halfway decent. And even then it wasn't, it wasn't done completely to compliance. So I'm going to have to go with Dustin on this. I think that that admin accounts, privilege escalation is that's huge. And of course, actors have even more capabilities now than they did before. I'm going to have to go with Dustin. I think that that's really going to be the one that's going to take it. It's going to upset.
Oh my gosh, we got some 16. This is worse than that year Purdue had the 1 seed. Now, Lawrence, second half is all
second half here, right? We have 2 solid controls here that are anchored in the AC, the access control category for CMMC. But I'll tell you, like DLP, the sprawl here is huge. So like we can look at DLP. That's really like access control 313. It is a control the flow of controlled and classified information through an organization. Eric, I'm with you. I have very rarely seen DLP configured correctly. But on the other side, right, we have some IA controls. We have the proper use of administrative accounts. We have privileged group sprawl over there in access control. I don't know. I think that that 16C could definitely upset it. I'm gonna go only because there's so many Spurs points that are available here. I'm going to go for that 16C from the CMMC side, but I don't know. It's a toss up because I think Eric's right. Like it doesn't ever get configured correctly.
Let's see that final score. Did DLP maintain
Oh,
it? It took it.
wow.
It took it.
Wow.
I think we're too much Reddit influence.
Wow. Man, all right.
Now we're early in the
huge.
episode, so we can dive a little bit deeper. Both of you guys said it's very rare that DLP is actually configured correctly. Would one of you guys mind just sharing, like, what does correct look like, or if more exciting, what does not correct look like?
Eric, take it away there.
Yeah, I mean, so well, you've got to have your data inventoried. If you don't have a good data inventory, how are you going to put controls in place? And that seems to be the big problem. You know, the tool is not hard to configure DLP. Have lots of things to configure the control itself, but where people mess up is they don't do their data inventory correctly, or they do go through a data inventory exercise and they really don't understand how their data is being used. They know where it flows, but they don't know how it's being used. And if you don't know how it's being used, how do you put a control around something that you don't even have visibility over? Like, you know, you've got individuals who have lots of Microsoft DLP installed, and it's great stuff, but they're not taking into account that these their end users are taking the data out of the controlled environment and creating other types of documents that we're not tracking. And that's really what gets you right there. So, I mean, what about you, Lawrence? What are you seeing?
Well, you know, so I'm seeing DLP come into a mass effect here in the CMMC world, right around the controlling the flow of CUI. And Eric, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're seeing more of the overclassification of things being identified as CUI. A lot of governmental agencies, parts of the Department of Defense, are just slapping a CUI label on something, and it really isn't CUI. But as mere mortals in the defense industrial base, we don't have the authorization to decontrol something, and so we have to abide by the fact that it is CUI if someone says that it is. And that turns into a lot of problems. And what I'm seeing now in gap assessments that we're doing is we're seeing those controls, those DLP controls that are normally nice and tight, get really loosened, and to allow these like what seem like one-offs in, and then going back to the thesis at the top here, it's not configured right. Like it's overly broad. Like all of army.mil send something, or let all of acme.com send something, because there is one email that needed to come in, and it is then just a free-for-all.
A temporary exception forever.
That's right. Very well said.
I mean, Eric, you'll probably get a kick out of this. I saw a law firm that they were like, oh yeah, we got DLP, and it was just literally sending passive alerts into the IT admin mailbox. I was like, technically you're correct. You do have DLP, but
right. Checking a box doesn't mean that you're actually leveraging it for the the purpose intended.
Doesn't even mean you checked it within the lines of the box. All right, let's get to the next game.
What box?
All right. So we got the 8 seed going against the 9 seed here. Local account sprawl versus Cypher Suite Circus. Now I know in the HIPAA world, obviously encryption is effectively all that matters. So I'm expecting a good turnout in the second half. But let's kick it to Lawrence first. From a security perspective, who's taking this first half, you think?
Oh man, from a security perspective, so I have to frame this in what our typical business looks like. right, typical small business, we're using more modern technologies. So we don't have necessarily a lot of unencrypted sessions, though to the point we actually open the broadcast with, we do still have SMBv1 that is far too prevalent. So with that said, right, with that said, I'm thinking that local account sprawl is going to take it here because that is so rarely controlled. There's a lot of default accounts that are still there. There's a lot of like the one password that IT uses to deploy everything. It is left over. So I think the security impact there is going to be greater than necessarily the risk for having weak encryption algorithms specifically. Though I think we still have TLS 1.0 that is on by default in Windows 11. So it's a toss up. I don't know. It's all in dumpster fire.
Let's get that first half score pulled up. And Dustin, I know, local accounts. Ooh, that's pretty close. Local accounts
Nice.
took in the first. Obviously, showing local accounts and everything is pretty easy. But if someone were to do a cyber insurance claim and needed to prove things were encrypted correctly, do you have any insight of how to actually get the evidence or proof that you are encrypting things correct?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've actually ran into that before, where it's been the
So
proof.
I guess better
so I have seen
question:
proof.
does insurance care about encryption as much?
I was going to say that's on the cipher piece. So I have seen to show proof of BitLocker was in place for I think it was lost or stolen devices. Trying to remember, but I mean again, part of it's just the nature of the business. We have to dumb it down, but unfortunately, a lot of our industry has dumbed themselves down too. The ciphers thing is just over their head. Is it encrypted or is it not? So from that standpoint, I don't know that I've seen anybody care besides the external scans that some of the carriers do. But that's back to the local account sprawl that's an easier to control thing where, okay, why are we worrying about the, the different cipher suites being active whenever Lawrence hit it right on the head, right? The MSP deploys every local device with the same account on it for, just through automation and stuff like that, where there's so much low hanging fruit on number 8 that I don't know from an insurance standpoint that I'm really digging into 9 that much. My thing would be, are your devices encrypted? I'm not even going to go deep enough to look at the ciphers being used because I don't trust the people to answer properly. Right, that's one of the biggest headaches we have on there and it's well intentioned. So everybody talks about claims being denied. It has to be malicious and intentional to deny a claim for court. And a lot of this stuff is just ignorance, right? Yeah, we got it encrypted, no problem. You checked a couple boxes on BitLocker, maybe it's working. Who knows? Like we talked, you don't have Sention verifying your stuff, so yeah, you got the settings in place.
Hang on. I have an animation for this. Here we go. Hey, thank you, dude. You just got your payment.
Nice.
But yeah, so I'm going at local accounts all day. I just saw a breach this week that was they factory reset. That's a weird phrase to use, but web-facing software. They had to wipe their config files, redeployed it, and forgot to. It'd be the equivalent of deploying WordPress and not changing the default password. The whole MSP got breached.
Wow.
All right, let's pull up this final score. And Eric, let's see if you are surprised by the winner of Upset Alert.
I am.
The first upset of the day is CypherSuite Circus.
I'm a little surprised because I mean they're both IG2 controls, and so I had to agree with Dustin. I mean, account management is something that it can be done. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's things that people sort of should be thinking about. Encryption, that's pretty much handled behind the scenes. You set a config, and it's either TLS 1.2 or 3. Or 1.1 as Lawrence said. But I'm a little surprised by that one, honestly.
Yeah, is CMMC prioritizing encryption a lot more here, Lawrence, or is this Hal getting something a little wrong?
No, it definitely is. Right. So inside the CMMC space, and this is one of the most common. I think kind of to Justin's point here. This is one of the most commonly overlooked elements that I see in a lot of security plans. That CMMC requires the use of FIPS validated cryptography. And so that's very specific cryptographic algorithms that have already been verified and vetted by the federal government. There's very specific configuration that has to be done to enable those, and then to limit even beyond that what ciphers are used by the operating system inside of the FIPS validated modules. So there's a lot that goes into this. Like you can see at the bottom of Cipher Suite Circus here that we're anchoring on that SC domain, so 3.13.8. But we could expand that, right? Like we have the cryptographic protection as CUI. So we have data at rest requirements in 3.13.11. We have other areas in CMMC where there's a lot of spurs points that are up for grabs here, and that also involves any movement of CUI across a wire. It has to be encrypted not just at rest, but it has to be encrypted in motion. And again, so that now we have FIPS validated cryptography on network switches, on wireless access points, on the servers themselves, on the cloud service providers, if you're using a CSP. So there's a lot of cryptography that is part of the CMMC world. So I don't think Hal's hallucinating here. I think there's just a lot of spurs points that are available here.
And I think that's the difference,
All
you know,
right.
in the CIS controls, they just say it has to be encrypted. It doesn't have the specificity that we do. And, you know, so they do data at rest, data in transit 310 and 311. But I think it's that specificity in the CMMC versus the CIS control that kind of threw me. So
yeah, that's so
like
true,
it.
Eric. That's so true. Last
year, local accounts for all might have taken it, but we had to up the stakes in year 2 of this program. All right, let's kick off to the 5 seed here. D-Mark, never met her, going against no verbose auditing. I know these team names are really getting interesting. It's like as we started making these, we started to have more and more fun. So, all right, Eric, I'll let you kick off. I think you gave the first laugh at the names here. Are we expecting another upset here, or we think D-Mark will take it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who doesn't know about D-Mark? Everyone who tried to send email. What was it last fall? Like, what is D-Mark? Who's doing that? What? Why won't my email go through? You know, but auditing. I mean, I think in last session, you know, there was a lot of talk about auditing, and it's not so much just to have the auditing, but to have that, you know, to have good auditing that can be, you know, used for a purpose, not just to have a log. I mean, there's a lot of check boxes, but so so I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with the logging on this one.
Okay, all right. So you're seeing an upset, is what you're saying?
I think so,
Okay.
but you
All
know,
right.
I'm butterbean at the prize fight, so who knows?
So I'll use the example. I'm curious, Eric, if you agree with me on the thing with DMARC is, so we insure a ton of lawyers. We're the insurance partner for one of the big state bars. So Eric, I'm a lawyer. I come to you. This emails aren't getting through. What's this DMARC thing? Can you turn it off, right? So it's just my bar is so low for a lot of the email security. I just don't. Real world, like, yeah, the technology works, but people aren't using it. So I'm going to go for 12 on that, just from a what's pragmatic. What are you going to be able to do in the real world?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to complain. You know, the lawyers aren't going to turn off verbose auditing. They're going to ask to turn off DMARC. My emails have to get through. I can't work without it, kind of thing.
Wow.
So I think
there's a lot more. There's a lot more
Yeah.
accepted risk with DMARC because people just want it to work, so they're willing to, you know,
Yeah,
get rid of it.
yeah. I'm not riding DMARC really hard because businesses
Well,
are going to say emails have to get through, and
yeah,
it's not going to get configured right.
And you brought up the legal field, and you know they really love verbose everything. So
Eric, you're doing well, man. You sure you weren't prepared for this webinar?
No, I wasn't prepared. You threw me under the bus, man. We're gonna have a talk later.
All right, Justin, sorry, you had to follow up.
No, and I was going to say, we talked a bunch, Lawrence and I, especially last week, you know, the better your logs, then at least you know what the damages were. So there is, this is one of the things where I think there's a really high level of value.
All right, let's pull up that first half, and let's see if that conversation with
Oh,
Lawrence
yes.
did.
Yes.
Let's see if that conversation with Lawrence did hold up. You think we're expecting a second half upset here, Lawrence?
So we're anchored in that SC domain here, right? So this just at the surface, this is a 5-pointer, right? This is five spurs points So that tells us that NIST, in their infinite wisdom, really believes that this is important, and it is all around the authenticity of communications. So I'm going to put my bet for second half in DMARC, only because like, we know that there's 5 Spurs points immediately available here for authenticity, but the amount of impersonation, if we look at the actual security impact of this, I would argue that DMARC has a bigger security impact than logging. To quote the amazing Matt Lee, right? Like if logging tells us like how the dead body got on the table, but if we're trying to prevent the dead body from getting on the table, I'm going with DMARC because it absolutely will prevent some of those impersonations and spoofs from coming in. So from a compliance
I think the
perspective,
lawyers don't even want to know how the dead body got there, man. Well, isn't that what Dustin was saying?
Plausible
Well,
deniability.
Plausible deniability.
And since you put it that way, I'm gonna have to change my mind. I have to agree from a security
Oh.
perspective. Yeah, but you know, I'm from a compliance side. I'm all about that verbose auditing and
Yeah.
logging. So
that's
but
so true.
yeah, but from a security perspective, Lawrence, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head for me. So
Let's see. I'm putting.
You
my,
just
I'm putting
killed
my,
her.
I'm putting on 5.
You killed her.
All right, let's see if there's an upset in the second half.
Oh yes.
Ooh, I will say, no
All right.
verbose auditing did win the second half scoring, but lost the ultimate game. That was a hell of a comeback.
Wow, that's huge.
I
That is
figured
huge.
this one I was going to bet on. I was surprised. This seemed after last week like Hal would have been all over the number 12. I guess I'm not learning the patterns as well as I should be.
I wonder if there was like something like the Riz score increased in this.
No.
That there's something that happened in the last week that was,
Very
I don't
possible. Know. I mean, with everything going on globally, you could be right. There's a whole lot of information flowing. So there could have been some internet chatter that we're just not party to that Hal picked up on.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this next game. We got attachment types, anything goes versus SNMP V1 community chest. So we got access versus a lateral movement. I'm going to kick off with Lawrence on this one. How are we feeling? Who's going to be taking this?
Man, SNMP V1. So this hits the nostalgia button for me.
Like it's not out there anymore, right?
I may or may not have my own enterprise number, so it is entirely possible that I might have my own SNMP enterprise number, going like way back, and so like some of my earliest exploration in what we would now call hacking was scanning Class A's with an SNMP scanner, looking for private and wondering if I could turn things off. I think the statute of limitations has passed on most of that now, so I think we're okay. I'll have to ask Dustin for quick indemnification policy. But yeah, so I'm going for SNMP. If we have, that's the only control we have, I'm going for SNMP, mostly because there's a little bit of nostalgia there for me.
I love it. Dustin, what you got from the insurance point of view, you thinking?
Dude, I'm so torn on this. From a pure insurance point of view, half of our industry, if not most, man, if you walked into a cyber insurance conference and asked what's SNMP, I bet you 10% of people could even tell you.
I don't even think 10%.
So, yeah, from an understanding standpoint, a lot of things are, applications. Do you block malicious attachments? Like, don't allow EXEs through, I guess. Yeah. But I'm sitting there, I'm going back to Lawrence's thing. Like, you've seen all these firewall issues of just out of date, this, that, and the other. We talked last week about how we use signals in insurance a lot, right? Where it's a sign of maturity. It's not specifically around that. Like, 13's making me think if they got that open, that's probably pretty sloppy, unpatched firewalls, that kind of thing. So just from a underwriting perspective, I'm leaning towards 13 because Microsoft and Google both have some pretty not great filtering, but it's not like they're letting you email JavaScript and EXEs back and forth anymore.
Well, let's talk a little bit on that. Obviously, the filtering and capability exists. speaking towards the actual hardening and configurations of allowing attachments at all, or making sure malicious attachments aren't scanned or just not allowed to execute. I mean, how many people actually have these in place? And I'll say from my own experience of seeing it, these browser hardening settings are many times left to not configured, or whatever the default value is, to where there's literally one that says block malicious attachments that's set to not configured. People just don't go and review that.
We'll get to it later. We're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get a first half score then. Eric, I'd love to hear your take point on this. All right.
Wow.
I feel like there's got to be some Riz on that one coming up too. So I think attachment might be keeping it.
Yeah. So if I'm a bad actor, and I see some public screens, and I may or may not have seen quite a number of recent assessments where the public strings were set. There was no private strings, and then they were not only just set, but they were default. So I see a lot. I see a lot of this. So if I'm a bad guy, I'm gonna jump all over it. And let's be clear, not in the job I'm in now, and a job I held previously. We'll just make sure that. So no lawyer, no legal firms are coming after
up right there.
Eric, the lawyers are all sitting here in the audience watching, and they're like, "All right, we're not working with Dustin or Eric anymore."
Right.
but in a previous role, I did a lot of assessments, and so this was one of those things that you wouldn't think that you'd have to worry about, but and in some pretty sophisticated places with some engineers that should have known better. But who's going to take advantage of that? What can they actually get until you really are able to show them what you can do when you've got that, in your pocket. I was actually leaning, a little bit towards, number 4, but what Dustin and Lawrence were saying made a lot of sense, but it looks like that from the first half, that's really not going to be the case. I'm wondering if we're going to see any Riz on this myself.
Let's see if there's an upset. Yeah. Here it comes.
Oh,
no
wow.
Upset found.
That was
with attachments.
It was a lot closer than I thought, though.
Yeah, I agree. Eric. Like I was thinking about it from the CMMC perspective, that like we have to enforce malicious code scanning at certain places inside of a system design. And Zach, something you said that just jarred my mind. Like we have to control what types of things are allowed to be executed, like portable code. Like we have to define that in a CMMC boundary. Like where and how that is allowed. So yeah, that's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Wow.
Yep. And this next game going on, it's already in progress, so we're going to jump straight to that second half score to keep some pace here. But we got least privilege ignored versus SAS logs ignored.
Man.
If you can toss that first half score on the board. Game was already in progress, but is anyone here surprised on who's taking it the first half, and any takes on who's taking it away in the final score?
I'm guessing Hal's going to pick 11 on this one. That feels like a very
really a log versus least privilege.
I'm thinking number 6, right? So we have so many places in access control. Like access control is one of those certain bets where, like, yeah, that's 315. I'm going for number 6.
Yep. And let's talk about a little bit access control. Obviously, least privilege ignored. If everything's set up, everyone has access. But let's say it's set up in some extent, just to keep this a little educational. How often are people actually needing to review their access control and actually enforcing least privilege? Is it different for CMMC? Is there a best practice? What's the take there, Eric? Are we doing this?
I'm so glad that you did that first, because I was right there.
Do you need a drink? Do you need a drink?
Well, so least privilege, that comes under what, IG3, I think. So, and RBAC and those kinds of things. It's one of those things that people, you talk to them about least privilege, and you get a bunch of stares like, what does that really mean? Least privilege? I need access to everything, don't I? So, I've seen it done a considerable amount, but not to the extent that the compliance requirements have. in terms of actual security or not, I think that I have to agree with Lawrence here. I think that least privilege is going to continue to pull this out. Although there's probably some risk. Everybody's moving everything to SaaS, so I think that there's probably some risk around SaaS, especially with all of the things that have been coming out in the last quarter in terms of SaaS things going on in the market.
And let's pull up that final score. And I don't want to dive too deep into this topic I'm about to bring up,
Bam.
but
Wow,
looks like least
yeah.
privilege took it. But
Yep.
there might have been some Riz potentially. Would that a recent striker incident potentially influence the Riz in the second half?
I was thinking the same thing. I was like we have a whole bunch of good threat intel that's coming out about that.
Yep.
So we have phishing, so maybe some DMARC that was going on there. I don't know.
Who is she?
Collusion.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right,
Rizzler.
perfect.
The Rizzler. There you go.
The Rizzler.
Oh,
All
there we go.
right, let's get into this next matchup. We got probably my favorite team name that we had coming into this, but we got AV Not Centralized versus Windows 7 Walking Dead. It wouldn't actually be out there in the real world, but here we are. For somehow Windows 7 made the bracket, and it's here for the annual tournament. So let's see. I haven't kicked off.
I may or may not have seen a system inventory in the last month that had a startling number of Windows 7 on it.
Well, they were all segmented, right? They weren't in scope.
Absolutely, they were 100%.
No,
All right,
they're all on a security roadmap for.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're going to get ESUs for those things. Still be
3-year-old
patching.
COAM.
You're telling me those seeking their compliance can't just say it's on the roadmap and still get certified? That's not how it works.
I think up until maybe October of last year, that was exactly what was happening.
That's fair. All right, Dustin,
when CMC really went into effect.
Let's kick in with some insurance point of view. Do you guys actually check for up-to-date OSs, or is Windows 7 just one of those things you don't even look
that
for?
comes up pretty regularly. Old assets, especially internet. So one of the things that on our policies that we built is we're looking for internet exposed out-of-date assets. Less worried about internally because, again, going back to that, it's segregated. That means something different to everybody. But old assets, internet facing, are absolutely one of the biggest red flags that you're going to have a breach, you're going to have a claim. And I would also say on the other part of the AV Not Centralized, like the Defender and stuff does a decent enough job these days. I'm going to go 14 all day, every day from a compliance, from a this, that, and the other. I'm curious if Lawrence digs in more from the compliance side, but I mean, yeah, Windows 7, you got people on there using it, they're getting popped. Somebody will be stupid enough to put it on the internet. I got an RDP into our old, CNC machines. Or I got to get into the camera system for the executives have to be able to check the cameras from home. I'm just going to open 3390. The hackers will never find us there.
They'll never find that.
Yeah.
What you got in response, Lawrence? He called you out on it. You in agreement? There could be an upset here.
I'm right. So both of these, right? The anchors that we have from CMMC, both of these are 5-pointers. But I think from a overall security impact as well as compliance, right? I can't patch Win 7. I can't really secure it meaningfully. It has lots of vulnerabilities. It's out of support. I'm going that 14 seed all day here.
Yeah,
All right,
same
let's get
thing.
that first half score pulled up while Eric shares a little bit more. Yep,
Yeah,
there's the upset underway.
I mean, that's an IG1 control, establish and maintain a secure configuration process. I mean, so you just can't run from a CIS perspective. I mean, that's sort of the basics. That's table stakes. Yeah. You're either doing it or you're not.
Yep. I know a little bit about Control 4, and it's crazy too. Just obviously broadening the scope a little bit. Obviously, an out-of-date OS is one thing, but one of the more common things I see within the Chrome and Edge browser, there's also hardening settings that can force updates when they fall out of date. And the amount of times Sension, we turn on that policy just to see that 5-minute countdown timer automatically tick because they were already on an out-of-date browser before that red key was input is almost every time. So let's see where this ends. Is the 14 upsetting, or are we taking AV Not Centralized? And the score is upset. That might be the first double half upset by a lower seed. I may have to check the history on that.
That is
Well,
impressive. That is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
that is it. All right, biggest upset so far. Let's kick off the next following game. We got URL filters missing in action versus the 10 seed Telnet Time Machine. It's all about what goes across the wire. What do we got? I haven't had Eric kick off first. What's going on in this matchup?
Yeah, great question.
Is it even a matchup? What the hell is going on with these two teams?
No, well, I mean, Telnet Time Machine. I mean, you would think that Telnet would be gone. We wouldn't be seeing it, but I don't think that's really the case. I think we're probably seeing a lot more than we want. URL filtering, that's also. That's something that everyone should be doing now from a security perspective. I'm a little, but I'm going to go with the URL filter MIA from a security perspective.
I like it. Let's get that first half that leans towards security. See where we're at. Yeah, you got the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say blowout.
Oh, okay. Feeling blowout. You still feeling complete blowout into the compliance side as well, Dustin?
Yeah. So I haven't. This is really weird to say out loud, and it's going to probably jinx me, but I haven't seen insurance. We love port scans, right? That's a good port scan solves everything. But I haven't seen Telnet pop up in a while. I know it's still out there. I see RDP open on a weekly basis, SSH, stuff like that. I rarely see Telnet. I couldn't tell you the last time. So, I'm going all in on, to Eric's point, right? Good, solid URL filtering. Like, that's a huge, huge defense.
Yep.
All right. Let's get that final score, and I expect no Riz bonus.
Oh,
Yep. Lawrence, is that in line with CMMC? Feel all right?
That is absolutely in line with CMMC, right? We have to have secure management, a method to securely manage our network infrastructure, and so that would fall in Telnet. But at the same time, that URL filter, right? We have 5 points, 5 Spurs points directly available for that, and I think from the scope and bounds of what we're looking at here. Right, and I think Dustin's exactly right. In a small business, I don't see Telnet all that much. So URL filter all day long. That's actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be an absolute blowout. But
when we get to SSH and remote desktop open, we'll have a game.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm wondering.
There's something I wanted to kind of footstop something you said. I'd love for you to talk about it a little bit more as we go along here, and that's like those maturity signals. Like that's from an insurance perspective. I think that's incredibly valuable. Like I learned something last week, and just like, hey, like insurers actually understand this stuff. This isn't just like cyber speak anymore. So as we kind of go along, I'd love to hear like a little more about how you see that and as applicable to these games.
Dustin, I think you're raising the bar for all cyber insurance companies right now. How does that feel to have that authority?
It's been a 5 years grind to even move them, a couple inches. So I'm satisfying, but I'm so tired.
I may or may not have worked with some big underwriters in my past role, and I'll have to agree, Dustin. I'm seeing a lot more maturity coming out of your side of the house than I'm used to seeing. So good stuff.
Hey, there we go. All right, let's kick into this next game. The first half is already underway, so let's show that first half score right away. We got Anonymous Access All You Can Eat taking the first half by storm against Service Accounts Untracked. The 2 seeds winning as expected. Is anyone feeling a crazy upset to have the 15 over a 2 seed?
No.
That feels
Not a bit.
Well, we're keeping pace, so let's hit that final score and see if we agree with the results. As they pulls up, and it's probably the biggest blowout that we've had during the episode today. Anyone disagree? Everyone feeling okay about this? Hal got it right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Service accounts are, that's again, if it was another matchup, might change, but yeah, the amount of dumb stuff that happens because of anonymous access.
Yeah. Given we get to see anonymous access again in a future game, let's take a moment. Service accounts untracked. Does this have to do with doing asset inventory? How often? Give us a little bit of a explanation here on what this team was about. Any one of you, whoever wants to take it. Everyone's excited. I can prompt. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, I'll take it from the compliance perspective, and Eric, and I would love to hear your take on this, because you're like on the pointier end of this, seeing it operationalized. On the CMMC side, like we have to understand all of the things who have access to the system. That's both human and non-human identities, and so those service accounts, like those are the things that are accessing and potentially lots of stuff on behalf of a user. Like that they're accessing it. Like very often we will see a single service account that has access to all of the SharePoint sites, or have access to all of the email, to be able to do things like back it up. And those are not tracked in a register. They're not tracked in inventory. They're kind of hidden away. If they're not like intentionally brought to the forefront, that's a big problem. And inside of the CMMC world, like we do have very specific access control requirements to identify those processes acting on behalf of users, and to keep them in a register and know if there's a change. Going back to that thing we've talked about so many times here, that good change control, change management.
Yeah, I think this is service accounts being untracked. That is a huge issue. Obviously, service accounts, are the bane of a lot of existence when we're talking about corporate America, and large user bases. I think with the advent of coalesced identities with Azure Access and other things, it became a little bit easier to do those tracking. This is an IG2 control. I think it should be an IG1 control. I think it should fall right into into that inventory IG1 box. But out in the real world, I think where we see this is that there's sort of that demarcation line where you see sort of a certain size of business has a better handle on this because they only have a couple of service accounts. The larger the business and the lack of maturity, I think you sort of see that bell curve in terms of who's tracking their service accounts and who's not. And unfortunately, we've got some vendors out there that require service accounts that with all kinds of access, and that's a huge problem. There's a lot. I think we haven't seen the last of 15 here. I think that we're going to see more of this, but I have to agree with Dustin. Against anonymous access, there's really no contest, but it all in its own, it is a huge issue, and I think it's something we're gonna see later.
I'm getting word in that service accounts untracked was a rebuilding year, so they didn't even expect to make the tournament, and next year they'll be stronger. It's crazy. I just got that report in real time.
Well, I saw something yesterday. I think I didn't even bother reading, but it was like AWS has solved the unsecured buckets issue. I was like, all right. I'll believe that when I see it.
Did they solve it like they did the S3 bucket check in their default?
Yeah.
All right, let's kick into the next game. We got another 1 seed taking a 16, and this game has already concluded. So let's hop right over to that final score and see who took it away.
Yeah.
So
that CM domain and CMMC, that'll get you.
When you say that, why is the CM domain maybe weighted heavier? Why do you say that, Lawrence?
So if you don't know what's in your system, just like in the CIS controls, right? Like if we don't do IG1, or we don't do the IG1 controls well, if we don't hit control 1 and control 2, know what's in your system and know what's installed on that stuff, it's really hard to apply security. If you don't know what's there, how do you secure it? And I think that's exactly what keeps on happening in what I see over and over in the compliance space, is that people will focus on like all of the hard and crunchy on the outside, right? They'll have the firewalls, they'll have all of the VLANs, and it'll all be segmented, but they have absolutely no idea what actually is inside of that hard and crunchy outside.
The soft and squishy center.
That's right. Soft and chewy in the middle.
How many licks does it take?
That's right. So there's so many strings that are tied to that, both in compliance as well as in the CIS world.
And the IoT, the advent of IoT. I mean, let's face it, in corporate network, Everything has an Ethernet adapter now. So I think that organizations have done an okay job at understanding the devices that they're deploying and those kinds of things. But what they're not tracking are all those IoT devices that are sneaking into the edge, and they have no clue. And that's a big hole. And as Lauren said, unless you're scanning and you have an active way to understand what's on your network, how can you do anything else? I mean, that's table stakes. You have to do that well first.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned IoT. Like that's just a whole dumpster fire by itself, but that is so true, right? Like we had just a couple of years ago, we were talking about IV pumps getting hacked from a parking lot, and now like just recently, I saw that there was an attack that was propagated through a conference room control system. So yeah, it's
conference or a break room refrigerator.
Oh,
and no one thought to VLAN, all of those clocks and coffee makers, and why? No, who's going to use those?
It's just a refrigerator that has Wi-Fi. Why?
Or printers. Printers. They don't need their own VLAN. What are you going to get from those?
It's just, it works.
Right.
It prints.
I know. I was having a beer with one of the lead IR guys for a big carrier, and apparently there was a breach that happened because the copiers got infected at one company. The printer company comes in, packs them up at the end of the lease, goes and installs them at another company. The attackers literally used the printers as a jump box into another network. That was wild.
Or how about the major printer manufacturer selling to everyone? They have a default password that is unique, but they publish it in their manual.
We talked about that last week. Eric, you remember Dell and Calvin?
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell for you?
Yeah,
on the Dell iDRACs? For years, that was on the remote management was the default password.
There you go. Same thing.
Yeah.
So Dustin, in your example you gave about the printers being the jump point, company to company, is that still lateral movement, or is that
that's warp drive? That's warp drive, man. Scotty, beam me up. It's like the bad actor. The bad actor's like got all this great stuff, and we're about done, and they go to run their scan. It's like, wait, what's this? Who's this? All right.
We just upgraded.
Let's see if I can get that. Oh, I did.
See if you can get us back on track.
I was trying to be fun, and it didn't play. Here we go.
He got into the soundboard again. There you go.
Oh, you needed the Taco Bell one again.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not that Taco Bell game of the week yet. It's coming. All right, let's go back on track to this next game. We got RBAC unused versus URL logging on vacation. Let's kick it to Dustin to start off here. I know RBAC is probably something you guys check.
I will take admin rights all day, every day.
No.
Not as much on that because that's one of those things of it means different things to different people. I try really hard to stay away from underwriting controls like that are super open to interpretation. Right. So that's where it's like.
Explain that a little bit more, Dustin, for those kind of learning about the insurance industry. What do you mean you avoid those ones?
So I'll go to the opposite end that I'm sure everybody here has seen or heard about. There's a carrier that was asking, do you have MFA on your firewalls and network devices? Like, what the hell does that even mean? Right. It's very open for interpretation, very, very. And so on RBAC, that's the same thing, right? On an insurance application, do you leverage RBAC for X, right? Well, yeah, we do it. And we give, like on June GDAP, if anybody's ever had to suffer through that, there's a lot of companies out there that go into GDAP and it's like, congratulations, Zach, you got every right and role in GDAP. Where, okay, technically that's RBAC. It's just not, used properly. So from that perspective, a lot of people are like, why does insurance have such dumb questions? It's because we are trusting a person to fill out a PDF. And it's an underwriter putting it together who's probably not as technical as the cybersecurity person on the other end. So from that perspective, you could ask X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, Eric would answer it the right way, but the next 9 people who are not actually security people are going to give it a yes whenever they don't fully understand it or they misinterpreted it. So that's where personally, from an underwriting perspective, I like to stay away from stuff like that. That's open to interpretation. So like my thing would be, we had that earlier, the admin rights on your daily driver. So it's, does anybody have administrator rights on their daily account that they use, or do they have a separate one? It makes it just a little bit more black and white versus do you
Yeah.
use RBAC?
Yeah.
So does that mean you're taking the 9 seed here, or where did you
No,
sit?
I'm taking 8. I'm going there, but just real world is from an insurance perspective, RBAC's not something that you're going to see asked about very much because it's so vague. Insurance is not smart enough, and people don't pay enough attention to give a good answer. So you're not going to see that on many applications. But I'll take RBAC all day long.
All right, let's get that first half score pulled up, and let's go to Lawrence here. Who do you think's gonna end up closing us out here?
Oh man! All right, so I'm with Dustin from a security perspective. It's RBAC, but if I look from a compliance perspective, if I don't have URL logging, then I probably am not centralizing or doing my analysis of my logs. I have 5 Spurs points that are available to me there. Very likely more, right? Because that's one of those AU or auditing controls. So that means I probably am not logging where my people are going. I'm not able to have any type of defensive action based on where they're going.
I feel like there's got to be some striker Riz coming out here, though, because I mean, RBAC kind of goes into that.
I haven't read all of the threat reports. I've seen chatter, but nothing definitive. Yeah. But at the same time,
can Hal differentiate chatter versus reality?
We must ask this of our AI overlords, right? So this is really close. I'm going to go because of the number of Spurs points that are available here. I'm going to go for number 9.
I feel like Hal's going to pick 9. That feels like a very Hal pick.
All right, Eric, we got a split decision right now.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all holding up the NBA logo right now for our setting, and you got to be the breaker.
All right, yeah, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to break anything. I mean, these are both IG2 controls. The security practitioner in me is always going to roll into RBAC because if I can prevent it from happening, finding out and being able to discover who, what, when, and where, that's great. But if I can prevent it from happening, I'm going to always slide to, RBAC and roles every time. However, I think we're probably right. There's some Riz on the URL logging, so I'm gonna throw that way for the particular final score because I think Hal's gonna slide it to number 9.
Nice. All right, the hardening, automated logging, whatever he stood for. Hal, what's that final score?
Boom.
And it did. Upset took it.
All right,
Dustin, Eric, how you feeling about that? You pretty upset?
I saw it coming. I'm going to Vegas after this, I think is kind of the real answer.
You take Hal with you.
Yeah.
you voted with your heart for the winner, but you knew the real outcome.
Just remember, the house always wins, Dustin.
Not when I got Hal on my side throwing games.
Oh my gosh. All right. And you guys heard it a moment ago, but we have reached that point of the Taco Bell game of the week. So we got mobile wipe missing in action versus
Speaking of striker
storage thin.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, this is the matchup. If you don't know what's going on, or the good stuff keeps getting erased, but if you can't erase anything, it's almost like these teams are counterparts or head-to-head rivals. Eric, let's kick off with you, brother.
Yeah, so we're back to logging. We've been talking about logging a lot today. I'm from a CIS control aspect. This is sort of the table stakes. You've got to be doing logging. You've got to have those logs. You've got to be able to, So I'm going from a control standpoint. I would go with number 12. From a security standpoint, again, back to the other thing, I'm leaning towards number 5. From a security standpoint, I'm going to lean number 5. But from a compliance perspective, I'd have to go number 12. I didn't split anything there, did I? Actually,
I like it. I like it. First half should probably go to mobile wipe. I don't know. Does anyone disagree? First half, we all feeling
I'm actually
wipe?
leaning towards 12 from a security but so
ooh,
hot take. Most of the stuff out of the box now, you go and you buy a new iPhone, it's having you configure a PIN code, stuff like that. It's less going back to, God, I miss BlackBerry so much. But use BlackBerry as an example, right? Is that thing's unencrypted, you pick it up and my wife starts going through my emails kind of thing. You're not having that as much anymore. So devices are getting stolen, lost kind of thing, but the having logs across the board. I'm going to go 12 on both sides of it for this one.
All right, let's get that first half score, and then Lawrence, give us some takes.
Man,
There you go.
Okay.
Not
So
even close.
Butterbean got the knockout.
these are right, like they're on the like opposite side of this. From a compliance perspective, right? We have both of them that are required. Both these are 5-point controls. I again, going back to that configuration management, I'm going to lean for number 12 here, because yes, we have an AU domain, right? We have the requirement to log all of the things, but we don't have anything in our CA or RA domains, or our security, like our security controls and risk assessment. If my log storage is thin, then that should have come up in other areas of my system assessment. So I'm going to go from a Spurs points just alone. I'm going to go for log storage thin.
All right, we got the second half upset underway, or is it over? What's that final score? It was an upset.
all
The
right.
12 seed took it.
Yeah.
Dustin, you were right for most of it, and I think you guys all choose the upset? Is that do
No,
I have that
I
number
went
right,
for
or Eric? Did you go the other way?
I went 05 for security and 12 for compliance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you called
Did you
it,
know?
Eric.
Did you expect compliance to outweigh that much to take it in the end?
Yeah. So taking into consideration what Dustin said, yeah, I kind of figured that was gonna be the.
I like it. And that was your Taco Bell game of the week.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Do I get free tacos?
Oh man. Well, when there's an upset, we should just give Taco Bell a call and say, "Hey, I was one of the viewers of
Yeah.
Misconfiguration Madness."
I think Zach's going to get a cease and desist is what he's going to get for that.
Hey, I'm just trying to get sponsors for next year, man. This is forecasting my game plan. All right, we got the next game here. No behavior blocking versus a lot of log teams. You guys are
See, we're
right.
seeing
Log
a-
policy.
Man.
So this is just referring to the policy, though, not necessarily what's happening to them. So no behavior blocking versus the log policy just missing. Let's do Lawrence. Let's do Lawrence first.
Man, I was hoping you were going to call me, because these are right. This is hard from a security perspective. Yeah. Right. It's that 4 seed all the way. Having uncontrolled lateral movement is yeah, that's just a terrible idea. But then at the same time, if you don't turn on logging, right, we don't know what happens. So from a security, first half only, I'm going to say it is no behavior blocking, because that's going to, again, to quote Matt here, that's going to put the dead body on the table. If we need to figure out how the body got to the table, that's going to move to 13.
All right. Let's go ahead and pull that first half score. I think we all agree the security team will probably take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Eric, you got a follow up there of who you think's going to end up the winner?
I'm going to go back to the same thing. We're back to an IG1 control. From a compliance perspective, logging is up there at the top. Obviously from a security perspective, like Lawrence said, all day long for number 4. But I'm gonna go with it looks like logging is kind of taking the Riz of the week. So I'm going to say that 13 is going to upset.
All right, we got a potential upset coming. Dustin, Mr. Insurance. Can you even really check for this? I feel like you got to be on the behavior side. Anyway, I'm guessing about the insurance point of view. You tell me.
The behavior blocking absolutely would be more along those lines of those questions. So talking about how behind the insurance industry is, I remember it was like November 2023. I went to the big annual cyber insurance conference. And they had sessions, and these guys are coming up to me, "Hey, Dustin, there's this really cool thing we're going to start requiring next year. It's a magic. It's called MDR." I was like, "Yeah, it's 2023, guys. Like, that's cool." I always joke I'm the smartest cybersecurity guy in the room at these conferences, which is not bragging. It's just an insult to the rest of the industry. But this one specifically, behavior blocking, like the insurance industry knows, right? That the EDR, that kind of stuff, it is incredible how effective it is. So I was kind of spot on with the other guys. Was I think security first half, but going back to Hal loves logs, which I'm assuming
Yeah.
means Lawrence is a huge logging nerd.
Well,
So I'm gonna
you
say
know where everybody
13.
you know where everybody's keeping their policies now, right?
Off the
Not
paper.
out of band.
Yeah.
Not out of band. It's right there on the SharePoint where the bad
Yep.
actor can get to it because there's no
Oh, yeah.
behavior blocking.
100%.
But yeah, especially with like all the ITDR, whatever you're calling it, the seeing the behavioral stuff around 365. There's a lot of cool tech coming out. So yeah, I think we're going to see a big swing to the number 13 though for the second half.
All right, it sounds like Dustin's letting his Hal biases decide because it sounded like I was expecting him to say no behavior blocking, but
My heart is on 4, but the betting Dustin is on 13.
all right, let's see if the Hal bias gets another point right for Dustin. Let's see that final score. Gotta go with the heart. Gotta go with the heart.
Wow.
I'm not disappointed by that outcome. Let's say that.
A little bit more respect has been tossed towards Hal. All right.
It's gonna make it harder. Now we're gonna see logging and we're gonna go Hal's, and we're gonna lose again.
He's going to pick up on this podcast and
He's listening.
And then like completely throw that next week.
These people are guessing they're going to be wrong.
That's right.
But yeah, Zach, you said one thing just as we kind of talked around the insurance view is everybody says insurance does not want to pay claims. We do, but we just want to pay small claims. So logging is actually really effective because whenever it comes to, you have to assume breach. You mentioned on one of them earlier about, regulatory fines and disclosures.
Yep.
If we have logs to show that things were not accessed, right, we can see the lateral movement and everything, and we're like, hey, it's good. We had a very large law firm get breached, but it was able to detect they got into a backup server that was off the domain. So they got into one of the firewalls and a backup server that was off the domain. Everything was encrypted. So from the forensics, they were able to say, hey, they didn't actually access anything. So very small event from a claims perspective. But if they come in and it's like, hey, you're a medical office, you have 0 logging, then at that point, usually it's like assume breach. You need to notify the state that 100,000 patient records may have just been leaked. So good logging is a lifesaver on claims.
Yeah. How do you know? Because you don't have logging, so you have no clue what was actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to foot stomp that, Dustin, like the 2 words that you said that everyone should pay attention to, and that's like assume breach, right?
Yeah.
Like that's you have to start with the assumption and work it backwards to like, can you prove that it was not?
Yeah, you got to have that attribution. Without it, you're just guessing.
Yeah, that's right, Eric.
All right, let's go ahead and kick off the next matchup, the 6 seed versus the 11. We got those good old gone leavers still logged in. It's not possible, but it's versus the TLS weak ciphers.
This must be from like 2009. I mean, because that never happens today, right?
I mean, and if they do leave, at least their accounts are always wiped too. You wouldn't have just the SID raw string available just because you delete the display name. Like that's impossible.
Jack, hold on. I got to log into Lawrence's email for a couple more weeks. Just leave it active. I'll let you know when we can shut them off.
Yeah.
I'll just approve that ticket because I want to make sure you have the access you need to do your job.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick off here with Dustin. Okay, I said Dustin. I had Lawrence in my head, but Dustin, you're queued up now.
Number 6. I've seen so many breaches from that. Of the example I just used, I've literally seen that happen. Where they're like, oh yeah, like Eric left a couple months ago, but we just needed to wrap a couple things up. And I'm like, you can't. We needed access to his email. It's my favorite thing. Where I'm like, it's all Google and 365 both have a shared mailbox thing. You can give access, guys. So it's not even necessarily this. It's just the go back to signals, right? Is the people that are doing that. It's like usually you're missing a few other important things about how technology works these days. So I'm gonna go first half 6 for sure. I'm a little bit scared of double guessing Hal again. Until that last one, I would have said 11. Hal's going to go 11.
He's like listening.
Yeah. So again, going back to, from a practical standpoint, I don't think the weak ciphers are as big of a deal, right? You're getting into a lot more advanced attacks and stuff like that.
It's hard to tell because you guys can't trust the people you're asking.
Yeah. So I'm going to say first half is going to be 6 by a blowout. and then 11 comes back, but not enough in the second half.
All right, trying to learn from
Wow.
Hal, and I will give it a little bit of playback from earlier. We did have what was it, Cypher Sweet, whatever their team name was, did end up upsetting. So we have another encryption team taking the upset. Eric, what do you think? Or
Yeah,
Lawrence,
so-
take it.
No,
You know,
go
so-
ahead, Derek. This is, oh man.
Yeah, so I think everyone gets their onboarding. They nail it. Because if a user comes on, they're gonna, I don't have rights to this, I don't have rights, so that they nail their onboarding. I think, but when you get the offboarding, so do you have a good documented offboarding process? Well, maybe, perhaps, you'd be surprised at how many organizations don't automatically, start their offboarding process at the time that they're terminating. I mean, you would just think that would be, that would just be part and parcel, but it's that's still a problem, I think, across the board. And I don't care how big of an organization or how little of an organization, I think that offboarding process, or they only get it half right, or like Dustin was saying, well, we need access to this, or we don't want to lose access to that. The offboarding, when they go into identity, it erases all of this. You hear a lot of excuses. So I'm going to go with Dustin, but I'm not even going to go over to 11. I think that 6 is going to take it both first and final.
All right. And let's pull that first half score. And I know, Lawrence, you have the most encryption experience with CMMC alignment, which I know Hal is tailored towards. Are we going to have an upset? Because it does look like Dustin and Eric were right about the first half.
I'm gonna say that is really close. So I'm gonna say in the CMMC space, yes, we have to care about encryption. We have to care about specific ciphers. We have to care about where those ciphers are used. We have access control requirements for replay resistant authentication. We have, like I mentioned before, we have that data in motion and data at rest. Like, this is TLS, so it's going to be that data in motion. There's a lot of compliance points that are available here to mess up. That 6 seed, right, that's anchored in that access control. Right? We might be able to argue there's some configuration management in there, but it's really that access control. And Eric, I'm so glad that you said like that. Everyone has a great onboarding process, and no one has a good offboarding process. I'm so glad to hear that. That's like 100. Like that resonates with me. Like I see that way too often. I'm gonna go with 11 because of the number of compliance points that are available here, and that is in every system. I mean, right? Like we could do authentication, we can do data in motion. Yeah, I'm going for number 11. So let's see if I'm right.
All right. Not every company has encryption, but some people have employees who never leave. Let's find out with the final score here.
Oh,
Wow.
yes.
And it is an upset. So we got the ciphers. All right, Eric, you were the odd dog who went against the grain. Are you surprised here after hearing Lawrence's explanation on compliance?
No. So, so from a CIS perspective, do you have encryption? Yes, but it's TLS 1.1. I think that, so I don't know as much about the deep CMC controls as I would like. So I'm still learning on that. So after hearing Lawrence, I'm not surprised, but yeah, I am a little bit surprised from my knowledge of the control space.
All right. And we have one quick thing. Lawrence, did you have any other comments on this matchup?
No, it's that is spot on. And Eric, I love you. Like, oh yeah, we have, it's encrypted with TLS. One. It is. I mean, right? Technically, it is.
And I know that, and look, and I know that these conversations are going on, and I know that they're updating, the CIS controls. I mean, I was part of those groups in my last organization, so I know that all this is going on, but it's not there yet, and
right.
and as a practitioner, we tend to ask those questions. Obviously, we don't, we take it, it's prescriptive, we try not to be subjective, but we do try to make sure that if it's asking the question and we know that it's a bad thing, we don't give them points and check the box. We We say, hey, here's the deal. The control says this, but we know that that's not good practice. So we're
Right.
going to recommend, and we're going to say that, yes, you check the box, but you're not doing what you need to do. And we give that as part of our advice. So, but, you know, and I didn't realize that Hal checks against CMMC. I think you said that when we first got on. But again, I don't know CMMC as well as Lawrence does. So, yeah. So
You guys
Yeah,
want to hear the good
Lawrence
news?
is definitely a top percentage in that. What you got, Dustin?
The good news is the Windows 98 machine that runs the door badge system doesn't even have TLS on it, so we're fine.
Oh,
Don't
Yeah,
worry about it.
right.
yeah. That's totally
No,
fine.
hey, there's nothing weak about it. It's strong as it could have been. It's as strong as it can be.
All right, we're down to our final 3 matchups as we close up this week's round. We have
man.
the
Wow, that went
three.
fast.
I know this is fun. I mean, these are always fun. That's why we're running it back.
ACL
So we got access control Wild West going against provisioning by email. Huh. What could be so wrong about that? Let's give this to Eric to kick off.
Hmm.
Oh, of course, you're going to give me Ackles versus, voting by mail. Thanks,
I mean,
appreciate it.
ACL, this is a basketball tournament, man. I feel like we all just have to say ACL's worse just because ACL, there's, basketball.
So again, go back to my security roots. I think Ackles are one of the most misconfigured things out there. It really is the wild, wild west. I mean, you nailed it on that. Provisioning by email. I don't know that I'm I don't really know a whole lot about provisioning by email. So I don't even know where to go. I'm going to go with number 6 for the first half. And then just because, I'm not as familiar with the things that are going on with provisioning by email as an attack vector, I'm going to say that we're probably going to see that come out in the final.
Let's toss it to Lawrence. You got a little bit more insight you can share. What's up with provisioning by email? How'd they make it here in the tournament?
I'm not sure how they made it in the tournament in like 2026, because but I know no one has any issues in like audit traceability. There's a ticket for absolutely everything. There's plenty of accountability through, to go around. And like those insurance guys are just like making that stuff up. So I understand all of that. But I think from a security perspective, it's going to be number 6 all the way. And I don't know, these, but from a compliance perspective, both of these are awful. I mean, right?
That's how you really feel on the panel here today.
I mean, it's awful.
When it pulled up, I was waiting for him to start twitching and just.
Well, like I'm thinking about this and just reading it, it's like, oh. So yeah, I think from a compliance perspective, I'm going to say number 11 from a compliance perspective, only because we do have to have that closed loop of authorization, like a request. The authorization has to be verified by an approver and then acted upon, and then the acted upon documented and communicated back. So we have to have that whole loop that is done. Yeah. So from a compliance perspective, I'm going for number 11. But man, I don't know. This could be either of these.
All right, let's pull up that first half score. And Dustin, do you think those good old Apples are going to be keeping the lead? It does look like a commanding lead.
I'm thinking 11's going to come storming back. This is another one of those the head versus the heart. Because Eric kind of touched on it a little bit.
What happened last time? Are we learning?
No, I'm stubborn. But my thing on the email is like, at least there's a little bit of a trail. You at least got approval on it. I'm not saying it was done well, but it was, it's better than nothing kind of thing. If it came in here and it was, provisioned by verbal approval, we might have it different.
All right, that's solid. Yeah, that's solid.
So,
all right, let's get that final score pulled up. And the storm was strong. That was the storm that came back.
Hey, Dustin, and tell me you've never seen that approval by verbal.
Oh yeah. Well, you sent a note after the fact. So yeah, I told Eric we could do it on the 30th.
Right.
No,
and then
we documented it in email. Didn't you get the memo?
Yeah.
You didn't have any. You have the calendar invite provisioned on this day. It's all good.
I have actually seen that as attribution, so it's not that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, right.
And I am getting a word again. ACL Wild West is a little upset because there was a typo. They were the 3 seed in this tournament going against the 14 seed of provisioning by email, just for
Oh,
those watching closely. Hopefully that didn't skew the panel's expectations here.
no.
So, all right, down to the final 2 matchups. We have unsupported clients. Good
Oh,
old
wow.
old clients, new vulnerabilities. Going
Versus
against orphan
orphans.
accounts. It's been a while since Dustin kicked off. How we feeling, buddy?
This is a tough one. I feel really well seated. Um, Orphan accounts again, going back. That's a pet peeve of mine. I think Eric kind of touched on it earlier that back when I was more hands on the keyboard doing the actual security stuff, the amount of places you walk into where it's here's your 25 domain admins. And they're like, oh, 24 of those people haven't worked here in years. It's just that out of all the controls that SMB is bad at, is I would say the orphan accounts and just the general account management is some of the worst. But looking at 7, the volume of vulnerabilities we have these days and how fast I'd like to say always AI is an accelerator. So it accelerates the stupid stuff, the good, the bad, all of it. The amount, like how quickly things are getting hit these days. 0 day comes out and we'd have some stuff. Geez, I'm trying to remember going back. There was it was like one of the FTP softwares in the insurance side. We saw it getting hit months later, but you have stuff now that it's just getting hammered, the day after disclosure. So I'm going to go 7 on both sides, first and second half this time. That it's
All right.
killing you, especially Office macros, all the crazy exploits that come out. But from the compliance standpoint, is you got to patch quick, right? Everybody's tightening up. Insurance, we're seeing that too. I think it was Chubb that used to have where it was like if you patched within 1 year, you were mostly okay, which is crazy to say these
1
days.
year.
And now you're
Right.
seeing a lot of on ours, we're looking for anything higher critical has to be patched within 30 days. I wish I could tighten that up even further.
Wow.
Yeah.
So feeling unsupported clients both. Lawrence, you in agreement or where you sitting?
I'm in agreement there. We have 2 5-point controls that these are anchored to. They're both really important. But again, that spread of what all the bad that could happen from unsupported clients. I'm saying first and second half 7 seed.
All right, Eric, conclude us,
Yeah.
and let's give Eric that first half score. Let's give him a little hint on where Hal's heading.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not surprised. I mean, orphan accounts, I think it was funny, we've got those admin accounts and those people were no longer with us. And when you ask them why, it's because their service accounts were running some application and they can't take it down in it's like, so we've got these admins who used to run these applications and we couldn't make the change because we couldn't make the change window, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Orphan accounts are a huge problem, but I have to agree with I think number 7, first and final. I think that's one of the biggest vulnerability challenges that we're facing right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's eliminate the Zoom notification from the screen producer, and then let's see who that final score is taking. we
It's blocked. We can't see it.
And the final score goes to Upset.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Did not expect that.
Hate to see it, guys. We were all wrong on that one,
you're
panel.
all wrong.
Yeah, I think Hal's hallucinating again.
Oh, Lawrence, CMMC, dig in. Is Hal really hallucinating, or how are we feeling?
So those access control like orphan accounts, those are ones that just are out there. We should have those in in that AC311 domain. We're anchoring here on an IA domain. Like we're anchoring on the fact that that we have an attributable owner to all of these things. Thus, we can trace any activity back to a actual person. I don't know. I don't think it's a hallucination, but I don't know. There has to be some recency in here because those unsupported clients, there's just a world of bad that is there.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering if there's some big breach recently that was from a orphaned account.
orphan account. That's where my head is. Well, Dustin, because like I think from a CMMC perspective, these are both terrible. But I feel like there has to be something.
I always laugh, dude. Whenever you say awful, terrible, like your timing of the pause before the emphasis on that trigger word is perfect. It's comedy.
I feel this stuff, Zach. I feel this deeply. Like these things are deeply personal to me.
You know, and this is an IG3 control for CIS as well. So, I mean, the final score, I mean, I am surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be. I mean, you know, establish and maintain an inventory of all accounts, not just some. Right. It's all accounts. Right. So, you know, I shouldn't be surprised, but I am a little.
Good call for the emphasis on the all there.
Yeah.
All right, we got the final game of the week, and I have a feeling we're going to be in alignment. So we may have already had our most exciting game. Or maybe Lawrence is going to throw me a curveball and say that my gut instinct on this is wrong. But we got admin MFA exempt versus sensitivity labels MIA. Like Eric, you gave the laugh, so you're going to get the trigger to go. Yeah. What you got, brother?
So you know, nobody exempts themselves from MFA. That never happens. Never. Yeah, you know, there's a blowout here. You know, there's no doubt about it. And I think we even talked about this a little bit before about data classification. You know, even in the CMCC world, they're doing it, but they're doing it to an extreme that makes it, you know, makes the control really not really a control after all. So I'm just going to have to go 0-2 first and final all the way across the board.
Yeah.
Anyone want to add to it, or we just in agreement?
If you think about like, if we have no sensitivity labels, then like we have no information being classified, right? We have no data inventory. We don't know what's there. I mean, there's a
That's
world of bad that could be there.
Doesn't that make it harder for the attackers who get in when MFA is exempt? They don't know what data they want. It's not
take it all. I mean, take it all.
They just email all of it to themselves, and then they figure it out later on using Gmail, because we know we can't block Google.
Dustin, anything you want to add here? And let's show that first half score.
Full number 2. It better be a blowout.
Yeah, right. Let's see if it's a blowout. Let's just pull up both half scores. Let's see where we're at.
Oh yeah.
Big blowout.
Yeah.
Big blowout.
All right.
Maintain that 20-point margin.
We ended on a boring one. Sorry, guys.
I could have rotated, but I wanted to be fair to the order on the charts.
All right, so I want to say something to Eric's earlier point on data inventory here, right? So years ago, we responded to an incident, and with a large reinsurance company, that reinsurance company had everything done absolutely perfect, right? They had a solid inventory, they had data classification, labels, all the ACLs. It was absolutely perfect. But what they didn't have control over was a single user account, and a threat actor physically compromised the facility, printed out all of the records that they wanted, went over to a copier and faxed them, faxed using the copier all of the records back out. And the only indication of what happened was the log on the copier. So the fact it was a fax machine, right, dates it, but you get the point.
So Lawrence, even more interesting, that similar situation where they never had I seen a data classification done really, really well. Everything was in place with one minor exception. The CEO and the CFO had DLP turned off.
Of course they did.
You know, and I think maybe even the VP of sales, because something happened, they couldn't get their sales stuff out, but they had 3 individuals with their MFA turned off, or their DLP turned off, and of course, you know, who's the most sought after? Those 2 accounts right there.
Absolutely. I often say, like, if your name is on the side of the building, you should have the least privileges in the company,
and that's never the case.
I think it's a funny call. It reminds me of something I told I think Matt last year on the series. It was he asked which machine in an enterprise is the least secure, and everyone, of course, said the president, the owner. But I will say, from a configuration and hardening standpoint, it is most typically the conference machine, the one that's just online the whole time, no inactivity timeout. That's
the break room
one
printer.
That that's the one I see the least hardened baseline. 10 out of 10. It's not the owner. It is indeed the conference computer.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Wow.
Never thought about that. I thought you were going to say the sales guy, the CRO. Or the
Think I'll put myself under his bus, brother? I'm not here to.
You're number 2.
I'm here to build my report, dude. Like you're representing insurance. I'm here to represent the security people and sales, brother. All right. As we wrap up with these last few minutes, I appreciate you guys all being involved, giving your hot takes. Eric stepping up to the plate after some beautiful flight delays that gave you the opportunity to join us, not you doing us a favor, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me. Like I said, I have lots of opinions. Some of them, some of them matter to me, and some of them matter to other people. But I hope I was able to add some value, and I'd be glad to come back anytime.
I love it. And as we wrap up, I like to just kind of say, hey, we do this every year. We kind of shared last episode, why we want to do this, why we're presenting this more agnostic educational stuff. If you guys don't mind, just kind of share takeaway or, why is having a baseline in place critical overall at a high level view?
I'll start the half the claims we see, I talked a little bit about it last week, is just stupid. The company should know better. The IT guys do know better. We have, Eric, you'll get a kick out of this. We have one law firm that's had 3 years in a row, they've had a breach. And every time it was because they turned off multi-factor for user for troubleshooting, or I think somebody was annoying, that kind of thing. Where, okay, I understand you have to, but get it turned back on as quick as you can. So it's one of those, if you have, you guys are going to make fun of me. It doesn't even have to be a great baseline, but having something that you adhere to, the consistency is going to win the majority of the time. So just having something of the frameworks, the benchmarks, and all that good stuff, right, is set the bar and then just work to meet it. That's going to put you in the top 10% in a lot of cases.
I like it. Yeah. Lawrence, you want to share your takeaway, or why having a hardened baseline matters?
Absolutely. So I think in this case, right, I'm going to approach it in 2 ways. Right, I've been a CIS practitioner as long as that has been a thing. Right? My experience with the CIS controls predates CIS maintaining the controls. My company was the first CIS accredited organization on the planet, and so we did that to put our money where our mouth is. Right? Like we believe in this offense informs defense framework, right? A bad thing happens. Let's figure out how the bad thing happens and then apply a defensive framework to that. And it really is an 80-20 rule that we can get to 80% of effectiveness, right? An 80% score in broadly cybersecurity with 20% of the effort. And that's where the CIS controls, I think, really shine. So like and I said this last week, you don't necessarily have to be the fastest guy, but you have to be faster than the guy next to you when you're being chased by a bear. And that's the case here. Like if we make our adversaries' jobs just a little bit more difficult, they're going to move on to the next more opportunistic target. And that is where I see the value here. From the CMMC side, we have an absolute requirement, a very strict requirement to define the baseline, right? Define the baseline that has hardware, has software, has firmware, and documentation, right? We have to understand how the thing is put together, all the stuff that's supposed to be there, what hardware is authorized to be in the environment, and even down to what firmware is authorized to run in the environment on every single asset. And there's a reason that NIST put that in 800-171. They put it in the CMMC specification because, exactly to Dustin's point, right? It's if you get something, it's better than nothing. And even a weak baseline is better than having no baseline, because then you don't know what's there and can't make any actionable decisions based upon it. So it is so important.
And Eric, you're obviously coming in on the fly. You have any takeaways, or just overall why this stuff matters?
Yeah, so I think a famous boxer once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yes.
And and here's the thing. I mean, years ago, you could, maybe you had an excuse why you couldn't get a decent baseline, but today we've got tool sets and things that there's really no excuse for an organization not to know everything that's on their network, and those baseline configurations. Even if they, even if they get punched in the face, which they're going to get punched in the face. If you didn't even know you were if you didn't even know you were in a boxing ring and there was a risk there, then that's. I mean,
you might as well have headgear on. Like you might as well at least get some protection.
But I think that's really the thing is that ultimately, if you can have the greatest plan in the world, but if you planned around assumptions and don't really understand what's in there, then you put a fence up around your mailbox and they walked in and stole everything off your front porch. I mean, I think having that baseline is, I think Lauren said it. I think that's really the base that you build everything on, and without a good base, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Take it right off your front porch. That was a pretty common hobby, I think, over COVID times. But anyway, appreciate you coming, Eric. Appreciate everybody. Kind of my takeaway here, I want to just share on that is, when you do have these hardened baselines in places, you really are eliminating all the lowest hanging, easiest attack paths. So kind of just a quick share on when we implement the hardened baselines via Sention, right? Whenever the MSP or the enterprise or it's a pen testing firm has someone doing pen tests, they always have to exempt their box so they can do the rudimentary attacks that they're intentionally and supposed to be doing. So getting rid of all these IG1 level 1 configurations that we talk about in this series is going to eliminate so much low hanging fruit just by baselining your computers.
Being faster than the guy next to you when you're being chased by a bear.
Hey,
Exactly.
if the email goes out to everyone across all companies simultaneously, so the bear's chasing everyone. I don't know, man. There's a bear for each person, it feels like.
Hey, Zach, we need to see that on a Sention t-shirt.
The bear's behind everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, brother. We'll be back again next week. We got Phyllis Lee and Charity Otwell representing from CIS. Cool. So very excited to have them on, and I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you again, guys, for being here.
Have a good one.
You.
Thank you.